Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a counterterrorism investigation that is honestly pretty unique. We're going deep on the Red Fort blast case. Specifically, the investigation after that blast, which killed 10 people, and this really unusual terror module they uncovered.
It's a sobering case, for sure. But the sources we have, they're basically a window into the police work. We're talking J&K Police, the NIA.
The national agencies.
Right. And they track the methodical dismantling of this network. And the defining trait, the thing that keeps coming up, is that this was a so-called white-collar operation.
Getting doctors, educated professionals.
Exactly. Doctors using their status in society as, the perfect cover for some very large-scale planning.
And that's really the paradox we want to unpack for you today. How did this cell of highly educated people pull off a plot this big? And maybe more importantly, how on earth did they get caught? So our mission is to follow that trail for you, right from this tiny initial clue, just some posters, all the way up to discovering, well, a staggering amount of explosives.
And that first clue is where it all begins. It's a fantastic piece of local police work, really.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack the timeline. For an investigation that, ends up spanning multiple states and bringing in federal agencies, the start was surprisingly small.
It was. The origin point was Srinagar, back in mid-October.
Okay.
The Srinagar police were looking into what seemed like a pretty low-level intimidation thing. Just some warning posters that had been plastered on walls in the Nowgam area.
Posters. That's it.
That's it. Crude propaganda, targeting police and security guys. On paper, it's a local problem. Vandalism, maybe. But the local team, led by SSP Dr. G.V. Sandeep Chakravarthi, they took it very, very seriously.
And that's key, right? It would have been so easy to just dismiss that as, routine troublemaking, but they pulled the thread.
They did, and they moved fast. The sources point to the immediate use of CCTV footage all around that Nowgam area.
So modern surveillance was the key.
It was the critical tool. They meticulously tracked who was putting up those posters, and that's how they got their first 3 arrests.
Who were they?
A guy named Arif Nisar Dar, also called Sahil. Then Yasir Ashraf, and Maqsood Ahmad Dar, whose alias was Shahid. Getting those 3 was a big first step. It let investigators basically leapfrog from the guys on the street right into the command structure.
So they've got the initial operatives, but that's usually a firewall, right? The street-level guys are kept separate from the real planners.
Usually, yes.
Yeah.
But the sources suggest questioning these 3 immediately pointed to the white-collar nature of the whole thing.
And who was the first arrest that really bridged that gap between, the operational side and the professional side?
That would be a man named Maulvi Irfan Ahmad. His profile tells you so much about the cell's strategy.
Okay.
He used to be a paramedic, so he's got some practical skills, some cover.
Yeah.
But then he became an imam. Very influential role.
An imam?
Yeah. And the accusation against him is that he was the one who supplied those posters. But more critically, he was the ideological link. He was influencing and recruiting the doctors who became the core of the group.
That makes a ton of sense. The imam is the ideological anchor. He bridges that social gap between the guys on the street and the highly educated planners.
It's a classic structure. But this network was definitely not just in J&K.
Right.
And this is where the logistics get kind of stunning. Following the trail from these first arrests, investigators took a huge geographical leap.
Where to?
Hundreds of miles away to Al Fallah University in Faridabad.
A university, moving the planning hub to a university campus in a totally different state. That gives you an incredible layer of anonymity.
It really does. And you don't make a move like that, move your infrastructure that far, unless the stakes are very, very high.
So what did they find when they got to the university?
They found 2 more key suspects, both doctors. A Dr. Muzaffar Ganai and a Dr. Shaheen Saeed.
Okay, 2 more doctors.
But it wasn't just the people they found, it was the evidence. The sources say that at the university location, they recovered 2,900 kilograms of explosive material.
Wait, say that number again?
2,900 kilograms.
That is, that's an almost abstract number for most people. Can you put that into context for us? What does that kind of quantity mean?
It's immense. It's nearly 3 metric tons. We're talking about a payload that is way beyond what you'd need for a single conventional terror attack. This is enough material to cause absolutely devastating damage across a huge area.
So they weren't planning one attack.
It suggests they were planning a series of major events. And a volume like this, it doesn't just sit in a car trunk. You need warehouses, secure storage, something that being connected to a university might just give you.
That detail alone just changes everything.
Right.
This is not a local conspiracy anymore. It's a massive high-capacity threat. And this evidence must have helped them map out the core leadership.
It did. The sources are pretty clear that the core group, the real intellectual center of this module, was made up of 3 doctors.
Okay, so let's name them. What were their alleged roles?
The first is Dr. Muzaffar Kanai, who was arrested at the university. He seems to have been central to the logistics. The second is Dr. Umar Nabi.
And him.
The sources identify him as the actual driver of the car bomb that went off near the Red Fort, to his execution. And the third, and this is critical, is Dr. Muzaffar Rather. He is currently on the run.
On the run, so he might have been a key architect who got away.
That's what it suggests.
You know, the involvement of doctors here raises so many questions. They have credibility, they have organizational skills. Did the sources say anything about how their medical backgrounds might have helped the plot specifically?
The sources don't go into every single detail, but the advantage is obvious, right? A doctor has credibility, they can travel, rent spaces, maybe even get certain chemicals without raising suspicion.
Under the guise of legitimate work.
Exactly. And their training gives them high-level analytical skills. It's far superior to your average street operative. They essentially weaponize their social standing.
Okay, so with this level of sophistication and the fact that it crossed state lines from J&K into Faridabad, into Lucknow, a federal takeover was inevitable.
Absolutely. The National Investigation Agency, the NIA, had to step in.
So when did they formally take charge?
Fairly recently. Once that huge explosive cache was found, it became a clear federal case.
Yeah.
The NIA stepped in to centralize everything. And on a recent Thursday, they formally arrested 4 of the main conspirators.
Which brought the total to 6 at that point.
That's right.
And who were the 4 the NIA formally arrested? I think listing them really paints the picture of how wide this network was.
It does. So you have Dr. Muzammil Shakil Ganai from Pulwama, Dr. Adil Ahmed Rather from Anantnag, then Dr. Shaheen Saeed from Lucknow, which shows that reach into North India.
3 doctors.
And the 4th was Mufti Irfan Ahmad Wage, the Imam from Shopian. So you have 3 doctors and a Mufti from 3 different regions.
Now, just to clarify for everyone listening, these suspects were already in custody with the J&K police. So how does that handoff to the NIA work? What's a production warrant?
That's a good question. It's a key legal step. The J&K police arrested them under local laws. For the NIA to take over, they need formal federal authority.
So the warrant is the paperwork?
Essentially, yes. A judge issues these production warrants, and that's the legal handoff. It gives the NIA permission to take custody from the state police for their own federal investigation.
It's the procedure that makes sure all the evidence is transferred properly. How much time did the NIA get for questioning?
They asked for 15 days, which is pretty standard for a complex case like this. The judge granted them 10.
And that time is critical.
Oh, absolutely. They need that time to map out the funding, figure out the exact plan for those 2,900 kilos of explosives, and, of course, to hunt for the fugitive, Dr. Rather.
What's so interesting here is the whole case is defined by this highly educated core, the doctors. But planning to use 3 metric tons of explosives, that implies a need for very different, very practical skills.
You are exactly right. You need technical expertise. You need someone who knows how to build and manage these devices. And that brings us to the most recent development in the case.
From another agency.
Yeah, this one comes from the Jammu and Kashmir Police's State Investigation Agency, or SIA. They're continuing the local part of the probe.
And who did they bring in?
They just detained a man named Tufail Niyaz Bhat. He's from Pulwama. He's an electrician.
An electrician? There it is. The contrast. We go from a mufti and 3 doctors to an electrician.
It closes the loop, doesn't it? The doctors, the planners, they would have needed someone with those practical technical skills. Wiring, detonation, that sort of thing.
The hands-on capability.
Precisely. The agencies say they have concrete evidence linking Bhat to the planning. Now they're just trying to figure out how deep his involvement really was, especially with that enormous stockpile of explosives. It shows the module was full spectrum: ideology, strategy, and technical implementation.
So if we pull all of these threads together, what's the big picture here? We start with posters on a wall and end up with almost 3 metric tons of explosives, a network spanning J&K, Lucknow, Faridabad.
The thing that stands out is the coordination. I mean, the sheer sophistication of it. The investigation uncovered this tiered strategy.
Right.
You have the Imam providing ideological guidance. You have the doctors offering this high-level planning and professional cover. And then you have the electricians supplying the crucial technical skills. This wasn't some random group. It required serious trust and planning to gather all that explosive material while they all maintain these respectable day jobs.
So what does this all mean then for the security landscape? I mean, the sources basically map out a structure where being a professional wasn't a roadblock to extremism. It was actually an asset. It was the shield.
And that, I think, is the profoundly important question this case raises for counterterrorism. When you have a core group this educated, with this kind of specialized technical help, it's an evolving challenge. Investigators aren't just dealing with easily radicalized kids anymore.
Yeah.
They're facing skilled professionals who are leveraging their knowledge and their place in society to plan attacks. So detection becomes less about traditional intelligence and much more about tracking things like financial flows, professional networks, digital footprints. It requires a totally different kind of investigation than we needed a decade ago. That professional shield is the new battleground.
A really complex and frankly concerning evolution of the threat. Thank you for walking us through all the shocking details here.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for the Dip Dive. We hope this gave you a vital shortcut to understanding the structure and the strategic implications of this incredibly sophisticated network. We'll see you next time.